Hello again YouTubers, and welcome back. This week we're in New Zealand again, and we're taking a look at the Transport and Toy Museum in Wanaka on the South Island. This, you'd have to say, is the collection to end all collections. I've never seen so much stuff in one place. There was far too much to look at in the couple of hours we had there, and to be honest, we didn't really know what we were in for. We walked through the door and this is what we saw, which is more toys than transport. And then quickly we move on into the transport section and the cars. I started off by photographing some of the information boards. If you want to read them, pause the video. Unfortunately, there were so many of them, I gave up in the end. As you'll see from the hundreds and hundreds of cars in this collection, the vintage car scene in New Zealand is a bit of a mix between American and British vehicles. And here's a car I know well, the Jensen Interceptor. This one's a Mark III, similar to mine. The older the cars are, the more interesting they are to me, and I was rather drawn to this Buick. You don't see many of these Austin A40 Devons about. Maybe this Ford Mustang's more your sort of thing. This Lanchester would be pretty rare too these days, I would imagine. And our very first tractor, a South Pole Ferguson. They only built 3 of these, I believe, and I'm sure I've seen more than 3. At least this one admits to being a replica. How do you fancy tracking across the ice in this cab?
Yeah, this one's our 700cc Toyota.
As we enter the second building, we come across this model railway. To get a true feeling of what's in this collection, you need to look in the background of the images, because I just can't show you everything. Most of this building's taken up with a collection of commercial vehicles, and that includes these emergency service vehicles. Notice the collection of bicycles hanging up in the roof, and you can see by the amount of lorries why I stopped taking pictures of everything individually. An international truck, we don't see those in the UK. And a much earlier international. This one's got a little T20 crawler on the back of it. In fact, most of these trucks have got something on the back of them. I guess really because they just ran out of space. And a comma with a very strange load. It looks like a Samson Sibs grip, but that's not a Samson seat, that's an international. If I can get nearer to it, we'll see if we can have a better look. That's another angle of it, but I still can't get near it. I can't get between the lorries. And this is an early Auto Union, or as we would know it, an Audi. And this is a Goliath. I've never heard of them before. Pause the video just here and read the information board. and after working my way around the building I finally found a route to the sieve grip. Yep, it's definitely an International W6 converted into a sieve grip. I'm told that Samson tractor wasn't very good. Presumably this guy liked the wheels, so he built his own around a W6. So we've managed to show you a couple of minutes of a shed that would have taken at least a couple of hours to look at properly. But we've got to move on. There are more sheds to look at yet. And in the next one we've got rows and rows and rows of cars. They're sharing their space with a number of aeroplanes. I was told by a gentleman in this building that most of the vehicles are as they came off the road. He also told me that he'd been working there 8 years and he still hadn't seen everything. And there's plenty to have a look at if you're into military vehicles as well. At the far end of this building we come across some more tractors. The Lance Bulldog here in the foreground, and behind it the E27M Major with the most Heath Robinson 4N loader I've ever seen. And if you've got a cricket pitch to maintain, how about this grey Fergie on top of a Twos roller? And next we've got this Fowler steamroller. Note the bolted repairs to the headstock. It was the only bit of steam that I found in the collection, and it didn't look like it had been run for quite a long while. Standing next to the steamroller was a most unusual rally exhibit. It's a fully self-contained oil engine display unit, and it's propelled by the Fowler engine sitting on the front. I think it was probably made on an old lorry chassis. And now we're into the big toys, an International TD25. I've only ever seen a Euclid like this in a book before. It's basically two crawlers in one, split right down the middle, two GMC engines and separate transmissions driving onto each track. As a small child I had a model of one of these, and they always fascinated me. I never ever thought I'd see a real one, and certainly not while I was in New Zealand. I like the way they placed the little Farmall Cub next to this Cat D9. It gives you a real idea of how big the D9 is. And next to it another giant cat dozer. And there's quite a lot more heavy plant in this corner of the building, including a number of graders and also a big dump truck and a massive International Harvester payloader. I think it's probably the biggest one they made, but I don't know for sure. Maybe somebody will comment below and let me know. And back on the agricultural tractors we came across this BMD International with a very, very unusual wheel arrangement on the back. We seem to be in International Corner just here. We've got a early grey 1020, a Farmall H, and on the back of a lorry we've got this Farmall A, and behind that you can see a W4. And on the back of this lorry it looks like a Cletrac with a rather unusual blade arrangement. And then a Ford lorry, absolutely loaded with lawnmowers. The museum's on the same site as the local airfield, and as we move outside to the One Careful Owner collection, you get an idea of where all the noise is coming from. International Harvester must have been quite popular out here in New Zealand. Wherever we go we keep bumping into them. And the Fowler VF reminds us that there's quite a bit of English out here too. This engine's a Perkins Leopard. You don't see that many of these, but it's the second one I've seen since I've been in New Zealand. And it's fitted in this grader. Graders were essential for road maintenance in New Zealand up until relatively recent times. In fact, I actually saw one working on a roadside while we were here. I'm sure I recognise this little crawler, but I can't remember what make it is. I'm sure somebody's going to remind me in the comments below. And this is a later Bristol crawler. And we're back on the Internationals. I think this is a TD14 with a blade on it. And we've got a couple of TD6s and I think a TD8. They're all looking pretty tired, but everything's there. It'd be an excellent restoration project. An interesting crane conversion on this Leyland. And if you look in the background at the mountains, you'll see why this is here. And I think this is the second W12 we've seen. And an ED40 from England, not far from me. Another International. And a little case. And a Chamberlain from Australia. A David Brown from Meltham. Oh, and here's another W12. And a Bamford baler from England. And next to it was this International bale loader. I've got one just like this and I'd never seen another one. This loader seems to be just plenty big enough for this little David Brown. And it's a hydraulic. I'd never seen one like it before. An Alice Chalmers loading shovel. And a fairground ride. It's based around this American pickup truck. And one for the vintage machine tool enthusiasts, with a very useful long bed on it. So we've got to the bottom of the site and now it's time to turn around and head back. Of course I keep seeing things that I didn't see the first time. You don't see many Austin gypsies. This one looks pretty tidy and it'd be a nice thing to have. Tucked in amongst the cars I found this nice little selection of oil engines. I think the big green one's an International. And maybe that's a Lister. And we're in amongst the Rovers now. And look at the size of the aeroplane they're parked under. Well, I know that's a Model T Ford engine, but I've no idea what this thing is in the background. An Austin Metropolitan, built by Austin for Nash in America. The Ford Thames pickup truck. I don't think they sold these in the UK, but the vehicle was available in van form. So we're coming to the end of our tour of the Transport and Toy Museum in Wanaka. If you're heading to this part of the world, it's well worth a look. That's all for this week. Next week we'll be back on the working tractors, and we'll see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.